In this video, we're going to walk through how we can get our Macs set up for this iOS programming class. The very first thing that we want to do is we want to take a look at our App Store. You can either access it underneath the Apple, there's the App Store, or it should be docked. I'm going to go ahead and click and open it. Once the App Store is open, we want to go ahead and search for Xcode. Xcode will be the IDE that we use that will have the emulator that we can use for developing iOS applications. In addition to Xcode, we also want to install Swift Playgrounds. You can see that right here. Notice that in both cases I have open, so I've already installed those. When you look at the Xcode and the Swift Playgrounds, you'll notice that if you have not already installed it, you should have a Get button. If you click on the Get button, it will go ahead and retrieve it from the Apple App Store. You will need to provide your credentials for the Apple App Store. Once you do that, that button will change to install, and then you can go ahead and install the actual software. Once you have each of these installed, the Xcode and Swift Playgrounds, then you're pretty much set for this classroom. Those are the two requirements. Now, the Xcode for me took a little bit longer to install than the Swift Playgrounds. Now, if you're not seeing Swift Playgrounds with the Xcode, you can always come up here and search for the Swift Playgrounds individually as well, and it should show up there. That's all the requirements for the installation. The only other thing that we want to take a look at is related to the books. For this semester, we'll be using the Apple Education Develop in Swift series of books that are free, as well as resources that are on the web. Each week you'll have listed the readings. It may indicate that you're going to use a specific book in the series. It'll tell you which is the textbook to use and the pages within that textbook. And we will also have potentially a series of links to other material on the internet as well. In order to launch the books application, you can either go to the Go menu and bring up the applications and launch it from the applications menu, or if you have it docked, you can just click on it there. Now, one of the things that we want to do is we want to search for whatever the name of the book is that's specified in the reading. The first week, I believe, is Swift Fundamentals. So if I just start typing Swift Fundamentals, it's going to limit the actual book suggestions. In my case, I already have all these books in my library, but it's going to show you which options you can get. So you can go ahead and get them. They're going to require that you connect to the Apple Store with your credentials. Once you've done that, then you have access to the books. They are free. They do not cost anything for this Apple series. If you are clicking on something and it is requesting that you pay for something, then you must have a wrong textbook that you're trying to access. All of the textbooks that we'll be looking at, the different sections, will be free from the Apple Education. Now, if we click on one of the books, it should come up. There are 3 different versions of the same book. We want to make sure that we're using Xcode 15. You'll notice that on that initial screen, if I re-click on it, it shows Xcode 15 before it launches. If I would go ahead and click on this one, we can see this one's 11. And then if this one is 13, we want to make sure that we are picking the 15. And we want to stay with the orange ones, not the white one here. So you'll have reading in here. I believe the first reading is given like whatever the pages are. I think you have 3 or 4 sections within this textbook to read for the first week to get you a little bit more familiar with the textbooks. As I said, it's going to be a combination of the Apple textbooks as well as online references. Now, you may be panicking if you are not a Mac user, you don't have access to a Mac computer, about how am I going to do my assignments. There are two different kinds of assignments that we'll be doing. Initially, we'll be doing some that are console applications, and you can actually do those from a Replit editor. They have Swift option. I'll run through that in a video, and you should be able to do those anytime that we need to create something that it has more of an iOS base, that we need to use an emulator. You're going to have to use an actual Mac to do that development. Now, when you need to access a Mac, if you do not have one, Rock Valley College does have a Mac lab, and I believe there are 4 computers that are totally configured to actually do the iOS programming there. It's just a matter of you need to make it to the campus in the WTC building and access those computers during the lab hours. If you have any questions on this, please feel free to reach out to me.